Hello everybody, my name is NCSO7 and welcome to the Lost Media Iceberg. Now, I know everyone and their mother has done one of these videos before, but I want to do it myself, so yeah. A couple things to get out of the way. I want to give big credit to the Lost Media Wiki. It's where I got most of my information from. While this Iceberg will have some more NSFW stuff, there isn't going to be anything dark or disturbing on here. I just don't feel the most comfortable talking about stuff like that. And I'm also going to have my friend Jackson, or Jason Buttholes as he was known as before, narrate a couple of the entries. And yeah, so hope you guys enjoy. Let's begin. Jeff the Killer image. Probably the most popular search for lost media in recent memory is trying to find the original unedited image for the Jeff the Killer creepypasta. You've probably heard of the story before. It's not really that good, but this image of Jeff the Killer is more than likely burned into your memory. However, currently, we still don't know where the original image is. We've found some leads over time that the image may have been made sometime around 2005 on some Japanese websites, though we still don't have it. However, due to how big the search for this image is, we may potentially find it at some point. Hannah Montana anime. This is a lost anime series of the Hannah Montana show that was being made during the late 2000s by Toei Animation. While it was never publicly announced, there were leaks that production would be happening by a former animator. However, nothing ever came of this, and we don't even have any animation still, so we really don't have any idea of how this anime would have looked. Yeah, Beavis 1. This is a very obscure NES game that was mentioned in a couple of video game magazines during the late 1980s and early 1990s. However, the game has never been found or resurfaced, and has led to people creating many theories on what actually happened with this game. Some people think that it may have been a copyright trap, others think that the game was cancelled, some think that it was an unlicensed game which could explain why it hasn't resurfaced, and some people believe that the game was just made up to fill words on a page, because apparently a lot of magazines at the time would lie sometimes. So regardless of what the reason is and what happened with this game isn't known, considering how old the topic is, and since it hasn't been mentioned officially in 30 years, this case will likely never get solved. Lost Doctor Who episodes. Doctor Who is one of the most popular shows out there. However, while many of the episodes will be lost to time, with 156 episodes that were wiped during the late 1960s and early 1970s, with 97 of these episodes being from the first 6 seasons that are lost. These episodes were lost for various reasons, such as wiping master tapes for reuse to reduce costs, which was done a lot during this time, conflicts over who was in charge to archive the series, as well as the belief that the black and white episodes were outdated and thus didn't need to be archived. Eventually, the BBC would start an effort to regain the lost episodes, and while at least 50 have been found, there's many that are still lost, and this is a very good example of a good chunk of lost media. London After Midnight. If you're a horror movie connoisseur, you likely already know about this one, but this was a silent horror movie made in 1927, which followed a professor looking into a murder using a vampire disguise to help him in the case, with the professor being played by Lon Chaney, one of the last films he would be in. Although the movie was at least a decent success, it would eventually get destroyed in the infamous MGM fire in 1965, where many films would be destroyed. However, many stills of the movie and the full script have been found, with even a reconstruction of the film being made, and a remake in 1935 was made called The Mark of the Vampire, though no Lon Chaney in this movie. London After Midnight is probably one of the most popular and most sought after horror movies that's been lost, though it is unfortunately unlikely that we'll probably never find it.
NCS picked the perfect person to discuss Animaniacs Hollywood Hypnotics. Considering I'm a huge Animaniacs fan, I'm excited to discuss this topic. The game was planned to release in 2003 for the Game Boy Advance, but for some reason was never seen. The game was centered around Brain hypnotizing every actor in Hollywood and making them to believe they are who they are acting as, with Yakko, Wacko, and Dot stepping in to save the day. The game was never released because the publishers owed many debts, in which they had no way in order to actually release the game. hence it's still considered lost media. Screenshots can still be found at different levels, and by the looks of it, the game was fully complete.
Clockman. This is a previously lost animated film that was made in Czechoslovakia in 1976, and would eventually get an English dub a couple years later and would be renamed to just Sally, I guess, and would be part of the Pinwheel show on Nickelodeon. The short was about a girl who was on a trip by the Clockman and eventually returned to her house. The search for this short started in 2012, with many different leads being found, such as people contacting Koei Films, probably mispronounced that, the company believed to have made the short, as well as potentially the short being connected to the Red Shoes, though this was found to be a false lead. Eventually, both the original and dub versions of the Clockman short would be found online and have thankfully been archived. Crybaby Lane. This was a previously lost Nickelodeon TV horror film, being made and aired only once in October of 2000, only in the US. This movie would slip through the cracks for several years, with people wondering if the movie was real or not. Some people even called Nickelodeon, and they would say that the movie didn't exist, leading people to believe that it actually may have been banned. However, eventually the entire movie would be posted on Reddit in 2011, which would not only preserve the movie, but would also prompt Nickelodeon to re-air Crybaby Lane after 10 years. And interestingly, the movie was never truly banned, more so just forgotten. It is still a bit weird that Nickelodeon employees would say that the movie didn't exist, despite the fact that it very clearly did. It's weird, but thankfully the movie is found and has been preserved. Silent Hill. This refers to a cancelled Silent Hill game from the mid-2010s being made by Hideo Kojima. However, due to a feud between Kojima and Konami, Kojima would be laid off, canceling the game. However, a playable demo of the game called PT was released on the PlayStation 4 store for free, but Konami would very quickly try to pull the demo from the store and make it so you can't re-download it if you delete it, making it very hard to get, and we'll never see what Silent Hills truly could have been. Game of Thrones pilot. This was a pilot for the test screen that was being made in 2009 for, well, Game of Thrones, one of the most popular shows out there. And this pilot would have many differences to the show, such as the intro having a different shot of the Westeros, and many cast changes, like Jennifer Ailey playing Catelyn Stark before getting replaced by Michelle Farley, and Tamsin Merchant playing Daenerys Targaryen before getting replaced with Emilia Clarke. However, this pilot was never aired publicly and is still lost, with only some screenshots from the Lost Media Wiki being found of the pilot. I hope you know this stuff, because I did not like reading those names. I've also never seen Game of Thrones before, so excuse me for that.
Did you know that the original Grand Theft Auto was supposed to get a port for the Nintendo 64? Yeah, during E3 1999, it was announced that Grand Theft Auto 64 was going to be released. At the time, it was actually around halfway through, but no footage was actually shown of it. But you can actually read magazine ads actually describing and showing what was supposed to be seen. Unfortunately, Grand Theft Auto 64 just apparently never happened.
Food Fight original version. This was an animated movie made in 2012 that was basically Toy Story but a supermarket. Though the movie was very unsuccessful and known as one of the worst animated movies of all time, especially due to how dated the movie looked. And this may have been because the movie started development in 2000. However, in 2004, the files had been stolen apparently, forcing the development team to completely restart development on the movie. However, we have found some of the early animation for the movie, so yeah. It's more than likely the fact that all the files got stolen was probably a pretty big contributing factor into why Food Fight was not one of the better movies of history. Disney Channel Interactive. This was a service that started in 2007, where viewers of Disney Channel could go to Channel 100 with the proper cable box to Dish Home to play minigames based off of various shows, such as Hannah Montana, Kim Possible, That's So Raven, and more. These were developed by VisiWare, and you would play these games with the TV remote. However, this service would eventually be discontinued, and when a searcher contacted Dish Network to see if they still had the games, they said that they had wiped all of the game files. Though, we do thankfully at least have a list of all the games that were on the service. Unfortunately, this will likely never be found due to the fact that they were tied to a service that is not only dead, but any remnants of it being completely destroyed. Slamfest 99. For promotion of this first Super Smash Bros. Game, a live stream would be held in April of 1999 in Las Vegas through Real Player G2, which is an old streaming service, showing fights between the characters in the game, though in real life in costumes, the same costumes that would be used for the well-known commercial for the game. However, it was never broadcast after its initial broadcast, with the stream being completely lost. However, through various efforts such as contacting people who were involved with the promotion, several images and information has been found, such as how the matches were set up. But it's unlikely we'll probably ever get the full live stream. Hitagata. This was a supposed commercial that would air in Japan in the late 1990s and would consist of two human-like figures appearing and disappearing with railroad crossing sign rings in the background, with the commercial ending with the text, "Every 2 seconds a man dies on Earth." While I describe to you what the commercial is, the details are pretty fuzzy as it depends on the person. For example, some say there was a background with the railroad with signs, while others say there wasn't a background. It doesn't even know if it's a commercial, as it doesn't seem to advertise anything, with it acting more like a PSA. Despite the amount of people claiming to have seen it, as well as efforts to find the commercial, with people contacting various different companies, such as AC Japan, which is known for making various PSAs, nothing has been found to confirm or deny the existence of Hitagata, with many believing this is a case of the Mandela effect.
There are a lot of lost builds of Minecraft, and it's to the extent where you could literally be scrolling for minutes. If you weren't even reading, you could be scrolling for minutes through the amount of lost media related to these builds. A lot of the development stage and a lot of the actual updates of the game, we only have seen screenshots or small videos through Notch's blogs and his social media posts, but in general, a lot of these are lost. We can prove a lot of them exist. A lot of them have been partially found, a lot of them have been found in general, and some of them we don't even know if they even exist. But it is interesting though, because Minecraft is such a huge game, it's like you kind of do want to know, well, what was the development like? But yeah, it would take a whole, lengthy video of its own to even discuss all this.
SpongeBob Sailor Mouth Uncensored version. This episode aired in 2001 and consisted of the characters, mostly SpongeBob and Patrick, adding swear words to their sentences, and while originally the voice actors used substitute words, they found it too hard and eventually were granted permission to actually swear, with these audio clips existing, according to Tom Kenny, the voice of SpongeBob. However, they're likely buried very deep in Nickelodeon and will probably never be found. However, there are clips online of the actor swearing in different contexts, so if you really want to hear SpongeBob voice actors swear, you can find them online, so there's that. But as for the Sailor Mouth audio, we'll probably never get it. Filthy Frank Kenya song. This is a song made by Filthy Frank, or Joji, that was briefly included in one of his videos, though only 3 seconds of the song was available, until eventually the full song would be found in late 2023 by Discord user Damn Peggy, who found it after looking up East Ugandan Gospel before 2013. Yeah. DJ Hero 3DS build. This is a cancelled game in the DJ Hero series, which was a spin-off of the Guitar Hero series, and was shown at E3 2010. The game would then be scrapped due to the declining sales of the other Guitar Hero games, including DJ Hero 2, though could also be due to the 3DS's poor sales at launch. And while a demo was present at E3, this demo has never resurfaced online in any other build of the game, meaning that DJ Hero for the 3DS will likely never be found. The Lost FNAF 1 trailer. So this is a supposed lost trailer for the first Five Nights at Freddy's game. As on the FNAF 1 trailer, one of the earliest comments was from someone called Wallmeat, who would make mention of an earlier trailer with different designs to the animatronics, and after being questioned, confirmed that the trailer was a thing, with one noticeable difference being that the animatronics had being HAL 9001 eyes. Eventually, people were able to find Scott Cawthon's the game's developer, Google Plus page, which showed all of his videos on his channel, including deleted videos, with a video called Five Nights, not matching up with any other video on his channel and being the earliest video of Five Nights at Freddy's, making people believe that this was the lost trailer. However, Wallmeat would eventually debunk the whole thing, saying that he misremembered the trailer that was already on YouTube. So, while this trailer probably may not exist, it does still leave the Five Nights video a complete mystery. So, who knows? A Day with SpongeBob SquarePants. This refers to an unauthorized mockumentary that was allegedly to release in 2011. However, it never released, despite an Amazon listing showing it would come out. Eventually, people noticed some very weird stuff about the movie, like how the kid on the cover was actually just a stock photo kid, as well as the reviews on top being from people who didn't exist. Eventually in 2015, people were more interested in finding out whether or not this mockumentary was real. Eventually, people were able to find a company called Regal Films who are believed to have made the mockumentary, and some people associate with them. Eventually, when getting in contact with the main person of Regal Films, Lorenzo Holly, he would say that the movie was never made, though he did say that the movie may get crowdfunded, though that never happened. It is still unknown whether the mockumentary was a real thing or a complete hoax. However, there is one thing that is certain. This would be one search that would really get lost media searching really on the table. So, without A Day with SpongeBob SquarePants, the lost media fandom may not be nearly as big as it is nowadays.
So this is an interesting one. Garfield's Judgment Day. Yes, that is the actual title. I was kind of worried looking this one up because I thought Tyler was trolling me for a second, but yes, this actually exists. This was supposed to be a TV special that aired in either the 80s or the 90s, and Disney was actually working with this. The creator, Jim Davis, I think it's Jim Davis, was actually really into this. He wanted this to be one of the best Garfield productions he's made. And this is the part I thought was weird. They wanted it to make it about a tornado destroying the whole town, which they actually got voice acting and they actually got quite a bit of animation done before Disney pulled away, considering it was, in their opinion, too dark. The only way that this is even known to exist is because there was a documentary in the 80s for Garfield's quote-unquote birthday, and they showed previews of it. And yeah, that was basically it. That's all with Garfield's Judgment Day.
Diary of a Wimpy Kid Cabin Fever animated special. Based off of the book Cabin Fever, this is going to be a TV animated special that was meant to air in 2013 of Diary of a Wimpy Kid, but was then pushed back to 2014, and then nothing else was ever heard of it. It is believed that parts of the special would make their way into the Diary of a Wimpy Kid movies on Disney+, though this is unconfirmed, and that's really all we do have. Dreamcast Half-Life port. This was a port of Half-Life that was being made alongside a PS2 version, and was going to not only have lots of graphical improvements, but would also feature a mission called Half-Life Blue Shift, which would be an expansion to the game. Despite these improvements, the critical reception wasn't the best, and due to the Dreamcast being a very short-lived console, the port was cancelled. However, the port did manage to surface online with a build date of May 2001, with the game being mostly complete, meaning that they cancelled the game when it was practically finished. Thankfully, this build of the game has been preserved online, and you can play it. Kingdom Hearts VCast. This is a mobile Kingdom Hearts game made for the Verizon Wireless VCast cell phone network, being released in 2004 for Japan and 2005 for the US. Though this game wasn't made by Square Enix, but instead Disney Interactive, and is not canon to the timeline. However, once the service was discontinued, so was this game, though some people were able to get the game to work and upload gameplay videos to YouTube, so we can at least see how the game would have played and looked. However, this mobile Kingdom Hearts game is more than likely going to be lost for at least a good while, but it could maybe be found. Hatsune Miku Project Diva demo. So you probably know of Hatsune Miku, a very popular Vocaloid singer. However, there was a demo that was made for the first Project Diva game, being made in 2008, that was apparently leaked online, but later would be taken down by Sega. Though when people were trying to find this demo, through searching many ISOs, discovered that the demo was actually never leaked. However, this demo for the first Project Diva game is still lost, with images existing online showing what it was like, featuring some differences such as the animations being more low quality, which is to be expected from an early version of the game. It's unknown if we'll ever get to see this demo of the game. Mean Girls DS. Probably one of the more well-known lost media searches. This was a movie tie-in game for the movie Mean Girls from 2004, and was going to play similarly to the PC version, which did actually release. Interestingly, Lindsay Lohan doesn't appear on the cover of the game. This was probably due to her not having the best reputation at the time. However, the DS version of the game was never released for unknown reasons, and for a while people thought the game was a joke, since the release date for the game in Europe was September 11th, 2009, and in the US on April 20th, 2010. Notice the similarity with the dates, but apparently the game was sold in the US at least once, due to the game having a UPC code and a description on Walmart's website. However, a YouTuber named Raymona would get her hands on the ROM and would upload gameplay videos showing what the game looked and played like. However, for legal reasons, she can't upload the ROM online, making this game lost and probably forever, unless she eventually gets granted the power to upload it online, which would be very nice. MySpace deleted music. MySpace was a very popular social media platform during the 2000s, and would be the place where many future rappers and singers would post their music. However, in 2018, due to a server migration, all of the music on the site from 2003 to 2015 would be completely lost, with over 50 million songs falling victim to this. Despite many of these songs being saved online, there's still a lot of them that haven't surfaced, with some wondering if it was truly server migration or some other reason that everything was deleted. This remains to be one of the biggest losses of music in history. Spider-Man 4, the video game. Being based off the fourth Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie, which was cancelled by the way, a game was being made for the Wii and Xbox 360, where you would swing around an open world, similar to that of the previous Spider-Man games. However, the game was cancelled once the fourth movie wasn't happening, and although early builds of both versions would be dumped online, the game was technically never released. However, some assets from the game would eventually be reused for Prototype 2, which was also released on PS3, so there's that. Thankfully, we do have some playable builds online. Saki Sanabashi, or Go for a Punch. Okay, I know this technically isn't lost media, and it's more of an urban legend than anything else, but a lot of people consider it lost media, so I'm putting it here, and also, this is probably the only chance I'll ever get to talk about this. So, this refers to an alleged deep web anime, possibly being made in the late 1980s or early 1990s, with it consisting of high school girls getting trapped in a bathroom, and then some very disturbing stuff happens, with all of them being dead at the end. And while it does sound outlandish, there is literally no proof that this exists, as the whole search for this started from a 4chan thread, which, by the way, if you don't use 4chan, 4chan is an anonymous message board, as well as the fact that nothing has been found that comes close to the supposed anime. And in fact, there's even been arguments over who the OP of the original 4chan thread even was. It honestly is more of an urban legend and honestly shouldn't be in this video, but I figured I'd include it. And I know people want to believe that it exists, but let's keep it a stack solid. It's probably not real. King Kong Spider Pit scene. In the original King Kong movie from 1933, there's a scrapped scene where people would be attacked by several creatures, like spiders, though apparently it caused the audience to react very badly, so the scene was taken out. However, the scene was in the script for the movie, but it was apparently never actually filmed, so I I don't know if the scene I don't know. Regardless, the scene hasn't been found. The Oregon Trail 1936. Not to be confused with the video games of the same name. This was a 1936 movie that starred John Wayne that involved the main character John Delmont going after his father's killer and finding the truth about his fate. However, while the movie was apparently popular, it would become lost very quickly after its release, with only production stills and the movie poster being found. It's unlikely we'll ever find the full movie. WWE Brawl. This was a canceled fighting game based on the WWE, being made by Blue Tongue Entertainment and published by THQ. This was going to be a platform-based fighter, similar to that of Super Smash Bros., and was intended for release on the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, Wii, and 3DS. Though it was canceled due to many factors, such as timing and not being believed to be very successful. However, we do have loads of concept art and gameplay pictures, and videos showing what the game would have been like. And even recently, a prototype of the 3DS version would be found and dumped online. So thankfully, we at least have one build in the game that's safe, in safe hands.
Episodes 200 and 201 of South Park are notorious. This is because they tried to characterize the Prophet Muhammad of the Muslim faith. In Muslim tradition, you're not actually allowed to characterize or draw a picture or come up with any physical showing of the Prophet. And Matt Stone and Trey Parker, the creators of the show, wanted to say, like, hey, we have free speech to do that. On behalf of myself and NCS, we respect the Muslim traditions, and if they say that they would not like to characterize Muhammad, we will also follow that as well. We understand that Trey Parker and Matt Stone were trying to make an argument on their behalf, but we're not going to get into that argument altogether. We're just here to talk about the fact that the official uncensored episode or episodes are not found yet, where Muhammad is shown completely in full. There are so many variations of these two episodes, with the cursing even being completely censored as well, with Kyle giving a whole, like, what did we learn today type of speech being completely censored, and of course there's a big black censor bar put over Muhammad at any given instant. I think even the word Muhammad itself was actually censored in those episodes. It's crazy, and South Park was, or not even South Park, Matt Stone and Trey Parker were given death threats in Comedy Central. The place where South Park was aired was actually the bomb threats, complete bomb threats from different groups, and it was an absolute crazy thing. And even to this day, South Park actually still tries to put their characterization of Muhammad in their shows. It's still crazy. Matt Stone and Trey Parker clearly like to stick a middle finger up at anybody, and yeah, that's what they do.
This man. This refers to a canceled horror movie being based around a creepypasta. The creepypasta consisted of this guy, who's on the screen right now, appearing in the dreams of many different people, with him either being benevolent or demonic. And people weren't sure whether this was a real thing or not. However, it was revealed later to be a complete hoax, and that this was a form of marketing for a movie that was apparently going to star this man, with him figuring out why he keeps appearing in the dreams of people he's never seen before. However, nothing ever came of this, and while we do know that the director was Brian Bertino and producers of Rob Tappert and even Sam Raimi, it is still unknown if the movie was ever even made or not. But it is kind of interesting. Honestly, I kind of hope that the movie does actually get made someday. I mean, it probably never will, but it would be nice. The Mickey Mouse sex tape. So, allegedly in 1936, for Walt Disney's birthday party, some animators wanted to make an animation of Mickey and Minnie, well, having sex. It wasn't anything super fancy. They did end up showing it at his birthday party, but when Walt saw it, he laughed at it and asked who made it, to which he then fired the two animators who made it right on the spot. However, it is unknown if this actually happened, as this whole thing first came from a biography called Walt Disney Hollywood's Dark Prince, a book that is notorious for having lots of misinformation, so it is unknown whether this alleged sex animation is a real thing or not. But considering its age, we'll probably never find it, even if it was real. Google Lively. This was an early virtual world game that was being made by Google in 2008, and that could be played on Windows, where people would be able to customize their avatar and be able to interact with others in various worlds. Though the game was apparently very bland and didn't add much compared to other virtual world games at the time, and due to this reception, 5 months after the game released, in November 2008, Google announced the game would be discontinued, though servers wouldn't shut down until December of that year. And due to how protective Google is and the fact that no assets or code have ever resurfaced, Lively will likely be dead forever. King Koopa's Cool Cartoons. So you might potentially remember the Super Mario Bros. Super Show being aired in 1989 and was pretty well known alongside the Zelda cartoon at the same time. However, what you may not know is that there was a spin-off show called King Koopa's Cool Cartoons being aired the same year, 1989, but this time for only 65 episodes, and these would consist of a rubber costume of King Koopa, the original name of Bowser, doing various things such as interacting with the audience of kids, reading fan mail, and playing public domain cartoons from the 1920s and 1930s for some reason. However, the show was very unpopular, and only the intro and some other clips from the show would ever resurface. But I don't, and considering how obscure it is, it'll probably never get fully recovered. Halo DS. Okay, so this was a maybe scrapped Halo game that was alleged to appear on the DS. The thing is, while a prototype was made for the game was not being made or even authorized by Bungie or Microsoft, and that apparently the game that was seen online was actually a pitch to Nintendo that was made by supposedly a AAA publisher. And if you look at the gameplay videos online, it uses a lot of assets from GoldenEye Rogue Agent, which was a James Bond game on the DS that was also FPS. In terms of who made it, we're not too sure. Some people speculate it could be EA, but it is unknown. Regardless, while there is some pictures and videos online, this prototype build of a potential Halo game on a Nintendo console will probably never be found. Evangelion AIDS PSA. You're probably aware of Neon Genesis Evangelion, one of the most popular animes of all time. However, in 1999, a PSA was made for the city of Houston for the recent AIDS virus, with voice actors Spike Spencer and Tiffany Grant voicing teenagers having unprotected sex. However, it was apparently deemed way too good of acting, thus the PSA was never released. Eventually, these two would voice two of the most major characters in the Evangelion anime, with Spike voicing Shinji and Tiffany voicing Asuka, which is where the Evangelion connection comes in. Despite the PSA not having anything to do with Evangelion, eventually the PSA would resurface from Tiffany Grant as she had a copy of the PSA on cassette and would put it online. So, yeah, it's a bit of a weird story, but it is cool that it has been surfaced.
Burger King CDI games. Yes, you heard that correctly. CDI. Like, you know those, like, Hotel Mario and those really crappy, like, Legend of Zelda games? Yes, there was a Burger King training program on that thing. In the early 2000s, you could be using a CDI to learn how to flip some burgers. I don't know if I really want to continue on with this, because then it's crazy. During on YouTube, a lot of people were talking about the Philips CDI and how bad of a system it was, and some workers were like, "Hey, you reviewed every game, but the Burger King one." And then people were like, "What the fuck are you talking about, Burger King program training thing? It's real, and it sucks. And you're supposed to put in codes and proof of stuff that you actually even learned anything." It's the craziest thing I think I've ever seen.
The Apollo 11 master tapes. You know of when astronauts Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin landed on the moon in 1969? Yeah, this was one of the biggest accomplishments in human history, landing on the moon. However, while footage of them landing is preserved and will likely be preserved forever, there was more footage that was taken. However, this video has never been found. This is likely due to various factors, but more than likely, the master tapes were wiped, as were a lot of tapes during that time for reuse. Despite this being one of the most important accomplishments in human history, and while there have been efforts to find these, all of them have remained futile, so it's likely we'll never get to see the full tapes again. Action 52 SNES port. You may have heard of Action 52 being known for being one of the worst games ever made due to it not only having a laundry list of bad games included in the package, but also being very expensive. $199 to be exact. While NES and Genesis versions were made, an SNES version was maybe planned, though was never released, likely due to the other versions of the game being very disliked. However, we don't know if there ever was an SNES port in the cards, as some contacts that were related to the company and game have never heard of an SNES version, while some do know, so who the hell knows? It's lost, but even if it was a real thing, it probably wasn't very good. Spider-Man vs. Craven fan film. This was a fan film made in 1974 by students of New York University, with Bruce Cardozo being the director. Despite the movie being unofficial, Stan Lee, the creator of Spider-Man, would bless the project. It apparently was actually a very interesting movie and was pioneering some pretty cool effects for it just being a fan film about Spider-Man. However, once the film was finished, it would only be screened at some places, with the comic book and science fiction convention in LA in 2005 being the last screening. Which is a shame since it apparently had a lot of effort put into it, with custom-made costumes and effects, though Cardozo would eventually pass away in 2015, and since he was the only one known to have a copy of the movie on his computer, which may have been destroyed at this point, it's unlikely this fan film will ever resurface, and only some images from the movie exist online. Kekrok. This refers to an obscure 1993 Sega Genesis game named Kekrok. You've probably seen the box before, but aside from that, not much was known about what the game was like, although apparently it was unlicensed and not very good. However, it's pretty much accepted at this point that the game doesn't exist. That's really all I could find about this. Camera heads. This was an old creepypasta made on 4chan in 2009 and revolved around the protagonist finding some items out in the woods, with the letter saying, "I killed a camera head" being found, until the protagonist is then chased by these entities. Many believe they are walking surveillance cameras. However, the story was lost for a while when the site it was on, the paranormal board Xenopedia, would be shut down, deleting all the content on the site, including the story. However, some elements would live on, such as a YouTube video made in 2009 that's related to the story. Thankfully, in 2020, Lost Media Wiki user Marnin005 would find an archives link of the site, being able to find the RSS feed of edits to the page, along with the full story, making this story found. Early Dracula novel script. This refers to the first manuscript of the well-known Dracula novel, originally called The Undead, but was changed for copyright reasons. This manuscript has still been partially lost for quite some time. In 1980, part of the script would be found in a barn with many cross-out sentences, as well as a different ending where Dracula's castle would get destroyed by a volcanic eruption. However, the first 102 pages were and still are missing, so we don't know what the differences would have been. Though people have used other stories such as Dracula's Guest, a short story made in 1914 by Bram Stoker, to possibly contain the first 17 pages of the script, as well as Powers of Darkness, which was the Icelandic version of Dracula, contained a different story and wasn't a direct translation, with the story being based on real events, though this was likely changed due to the Jack the Ripper murders happening at the time. Despite these leads, we're still not sure if these two stories are actually part of the original manuscript. Unfortunately, because with age, we'll probably never have the full manuscript. 1890 census. This refers to the US Census made in 1890 and was meant to document statistics of the US. such as its population, for example. However, in 1921, a fire broke out in the building the document was held, and since it got destroyed in there, yeah, it's gone. However, there are some records that were able to be gleaned from it before its demise, but this census is basically completely gone. Rare Animal Crossing Wild World DSs. This refers to variants of the Nintendo DS console that were Animal Crossing Wild World themed, with 4 variants existing as they were made for a contest in Sweden. It was unknown if there were any records of these handhelds until Lost Media YouTuber L Supersonic Q would dive in and be able to find some of these variants from users online. So I heavily recommend watching his videos on these variants if you want to know more. I'll make sure to leave a link in the description, hopefully.
Interestingly enough, the entirety of the Family Guy pilot is not completely found. Only the first 7 minutes of the pilot have actually been seen, as they were put on some DVD box set thing. Seth MacFarlane was given like a really small budget to produce it. Actually it was way smaller, like 50K compared to the usual 1 mil that a pilot gets from Fox. And maybe that's the reason why Seth MacFarlane doesn't want to show it. Maybe because he's just not happy with it compared to how the show actually turned out. Because if you look at the quality of it and the colors and all that stuff, it's really not that good. Honestly, I mean, the finished product is obviously way better, but it's still very interesting that a show this popular that's been running for this long, we haven't really seen the full pilot yet.
Mario 64 theme park. In Mexico City, an amusement park named Rhino Adventura would be one of the biggest parks in the area, until being bought by Six Flags. However, they would have a couple attractions for a time based on the hit video game Super Mario 64. The first being Peach's Castle, which was basically an arcade with the theme of Mario 64, and Casa de Mario, which you would go through a foyer Mario 64 theme to go to different rooms based on games such as Donkey Kong 64 and Killer Instinct. At the end would be a store where demos of Nintendo 64 games would be held. However, all of this would be lost to time and would pretty much be forgotten until 2020 when Mario 64 would be brought back into the spotlight. And people would find out, as far as I know, everything was redesigned. However, some videos and pictures show what the attractions were like, although we are unsure of all the assets made and where they are today, but it's very likely that this theme park of Mario will probably remain lost. Guess you'll just have to go to Universal at this point if you want a Mario theme park. Ruby Dung. This was a game that was made by Notch, which was basically the precursor to the famous Minecraft. And while only a few screenshots exist, the grass and cobblestone textures would be reused from Minecraft. Even some of the earliest builds of Minecraft would be called Ruby Dung internally. And before Minecraft got its name, that's why it was called Ruby Dung. And apparently the game was meant to play like Dwarf Fortress, which was a game made in 2006 based on construction management. Though again, only screenshots exist and it'll probably never resurface because it's probably completely gone. Sonic Synergy. This was a quote-unquote canceled Sonic game that was being developed in 2007, originally being a more dark take on the story of a future Sonic game, Rise of Lyric. Originally would have had a battle mode. The game was being made for PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC before shifting to the Wii U, which caused a lot of problems, which would result in the game becoming Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric, one of the worst reviewed Sonic games of all time. While Sonic Synergy doesn't have that much for it, there is a title screen and concept sketches available online, as well as a trailer, which is kind of a shame that they ended up turning this what could have been a more interesting game into basically a crapshoot of a game on the Wii U, so that's a shame. Windows XP NES bootleg. This was a bootleg made for the Famicom in 2003 and was based on the Windows XP operating system, and having a desktop to navigate, with Internet Explorer of all things on there. Now, I would tell you what these icons do, however this bootleg has never been dumped online, although one copy was sold on eBay in 2013, so it is possible someone could obtain it and then dump the ROM online. This is honestly just weird, and even weirder, this isn't the only bootleg like this, as there's other bootlegs for the NES, like Windows 2000 for NES, though that is preserved. I don't get why people were so interested in putting operating systems on NES cartridges. GTA 3 for GBA. Not much is really known about this one, but after GTA 3 being released in 2001, it was announced that a GBA version of the game would be made, similar to that of GTA 2 getting a Game Boy Color version. However, it would have been developed by Destination Software, but then was changed to Crawfish Entertainment and was set to release in 2002. However, this wouldn't happen as switching developers caused the game to apparently eventually get changed into GTA Advance, which was actually released. There isn't really a lot known of this version of the game, however some things do exist online such as the supposed box art and some screenshots, though this version of GTA 3 is more than likely lost forever. Superman 1933. While many believe his first appearance was in 1938 with Action Comics #1, Superman was originally created in 1933 in a comic called The Superman, which had differences to what Superman would be, such as wearing a bat-like cape and didn't fight aliens, as well as being bare-chested. However, creators Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster couldn't secure a publisher, which would lead to Siegel burning the comic in a fire due to frustration, though eventually his idea would be picked up and would become the superhero we know. However, only the front cover and a sketch for the cover remain, as the rest of this book, considering the fact that it was completely burned, will be gone forever. Chicken Little 2. The Chicken Little was a movie that was released in 2005 to pretty mixed reviews, though a sequel was in development quickly after, with the plot being based on a love triangle with Chicken Little involved. However, while development was going well, it was eventually cancelled, possibly due to the fear of the movie not performing well. Although Todd Carter, who worked on the story for this sequel, did share some storyboards online, giving us an insight on what could have been with this movie. Tokyo 1960. This was a 1957 kaiju film, being a Filipino version of the first Godzilla movie, although it is unknown whether it was just a dub or edit of the Godzilla movie, or if it was different. The movie is lost with only a few ads still existing, as well as some cast members. Chris Farley Shrek audio. While Mike Myers plays Shrek in the movie called, Shrek, originally Chris Farley was meant to take that role. Apparently around 80 to 90% of the dialogue was voiced. However, Chris would die in 1997 to a drug overdose, which would lead to Myers playing Shrek. There aren't many known differences between performances, as the story was pretty similar, though Shrek's personality was very different, such as him wanting to help people and make friends, which is not how he is in the final movie. Thankfully, some of the dialogue has been released, so we at least have a taste of what his voice would have been like. The Cure for Insomnia. This was a movie made in 1987 by a guy named John Henry Timmis IV, which was an, I kid you not, 87-hour-long movie involving a guy reading a poem with the same name, The Cure for Insomnia, for the entire movie. Both the movie and poem are lost, as the movie was only screened once for an entire week, and no copies have ever been found. Some people say it was just a crappy art project. Honestly, it probably wasn't that good. Chilean Independence Act. This refers to the Declaration of Independence made in Chile to separate from the Spanish Empire, being made in 1818. Though in 1832, a new copy would be sent to Peru and kept in the Palacio de la Moneda. However, it would be destroyed in 1973 from the coup d'etat by soldiers. So, yeah, the document's completely lost at this point. Kaiser. This was considered to be the first full animated short made in Brazil, being created in 1917, and consisted of Emperor William II putting his military helmet on a globe, showing how he controls the world, until the globe eats him, with this short being a commentary on German expansionism. Unfortunately, only one frame of the short exists, and nothing else has ever been found. Deep Star 4000 audio. This was a US submarine that could go extremely far underwater, to at least 4,000 feet, hence the name. In 1966, on one descent, two crew members would find an extremely large cryptid believed to be at least 25 feet long, making it one of the largest fish out there. And apparently, they had recorded their reactions to the cryptid. However, these audio logs are lost and will likely never be found. Walt's Warning. You've probably heard of Breaking Bad before, one of the most popular shows of all time. However, in 2009, to promote Season 2 of Breaking Bad, a Flash game was made called Walt's Warning, where players could submit a name and picture to which Heisenberg or Walter White would then threaten the player. Although footage exists showing how it would have worked, the .swf file hasn't been found since it was discontinued with Flash going kaput, so it's impossible to play this nowadays. But we at least have video footage, I suppose. Chibico Special. This was a monster-themed game show that used many monsters from Toho and other kaijus including Godzilla, Mothra, and others. Despite the fact that a monster-themed game show sounds like a cool idea, apparently it was extremely unpopular and didn't even last a year, starting in October 1971 and ending September 1972. And only some images of this show exist, no videos exist, or even info on how the game worked. Honestly, kind of a shame, because I think that the idea is actually there. Maybe if they do it nowadays, maybe it would be more successful. Super Kid Icarus. This was a rumored game to release on the Super Nintendo back in the 1990s, meant to be the next big game in the Kid Icarus series. However, it was likely never real, as the only evidence that this game ever existed was in a few gaming magazines back in the time, which don't have any sources and are possibly false. So, same thing with the game. Truthfully, it shouldn't be in this video, but I figured I would include it. Chowda Heads. This was a cancelled wrestling cartoon series originally planned to air in 1999. It was meant to air on World Championship Wrestling, or WCW Monday Nitro, and would follow 3 teenagers getting themselves in various wrestling-themed situations. Despite 8 episodes being made, changes in the WCW led to the show being put on hold before finally getting the axe. However, in 2016, Eli Roth, the creator of the cartoon, would post the first episode onto Facebook. However, the 7 episodes have yet to be found. At least we have 1 episode though, so we at least have an idea of how the show would have worked. Gizmonauts. I don't know too much about this one, but this is apparently a mobile game from the early 2010s where you manage an area with robots, collecting them, upgrading them with gizmo attachments and other stuff. While footage exists on YouTube, it doesn't seem that the APK file has been found, so rest in peace, Gizmonauts, rest in peace. Rodan NES. Not much is known about this either. I should mention we're getting pretty low now, so there's not a lot to say, but this was apparently a Godzilla game being made for the NES in 1991 based on the Rodan. However, it would eventually be cancelled, with some speculating it being due to the name not being as commercially successful as Godzilla. While some ads do prove the game's existence, such as Nintendo Power, no footage of this game has been found. Seriously, dude, I'm gay. This is a cancelled reality TV series that was meant to air on Fox in 2004. It would be about 2 straight guys living as gay men for a week, and whoever was the most gay by the end of the week would win $50,000. Naturally, LGBTQ groups got very angry at this, which led to the show getting cancelled with nothing else existing. Not even promotional material or even a logo was ever found. Considering how it is, it'll probably never resurface. Also, side note, how would they be able to determine who is the most gay in the week? Like, what, are they tracking? Do they have, like, trackers on them to see their activity or something like that? I don't know. Slinyeko. This was a show that ran in Czechoslovakia from 1979 to 1989. It was a kids' show with multiple segments, such as the main character Slinyeko, which was basically a sun puppet, introducing the topic of the episode, and Radofak Placha interacting with the audience. Radofak is probably the most well-known character from this show, due to just how strange she looks. However, the show actually isn't that creepy, despite what you may initially think. However, unfortunately, the show never got any DVD or VHS release, and today, only some episodes are available for viewing on YouTube. Though, it is possible if more people in Czechoslovakia, well, not anymore because the country got separated into Czech Republic and Slovakia, but maybe somebody from one of those two countries. Maybe they have some more recordings, so it is possible we might find more episodes in the future, though. Finding the whole entire series, I wouldn't put my money on it. Animal Crossing 2. This was a supposed sequel to the GameCube game Animal Crossing being made for the GameCube. Allegedly, it was going to release in 2004, though it, didn't. And it was believed to be moved to the DS and being reworked into Wild World, which would release in 2005 for the DS. Very little is known about this game, with only 2 screenshots existing, supposedly of the game, though apparently are actually from the first game, so it's unknown whether this sequel is ever a real thing or not. Secret Gospel of Mark. This refers to a letter found in 1958 that was made by Clement of Alexandria, responding to someone named Theodore, asking if a different version of the Gospel of Mark existed, to which Clement confirmed a longer, more spiritual version of the script existed. Although the letter was found, the pages apparently went missing again and was believed to be destroyed, although it is unclear whether this was a real lost script for the Gospel or not. Mario Takes America. This was a cancelled Philips CDI game starring, Mario. It was to feature him exploring America, being an educational game using full motion video with Mario animated. However, the game's performance wasn't very good and development was anything but smooth, leading to its cancellation. Also, it was on the Philips CDI, so it probably wouldn't have sold well. Only 1 screenshot exists, but it's very unlikely we'll ever see much more on this game. G-Man virus. This was apparently an LUA-coded virus that would work on older versions of Garry's Mod, and you could get it by either by downloading the wrong add-on or going to the wrong server, and once it would take over your PC, it would show an image of 2 G-Man faces together and would start doing other stuff, like opening other virus ads and other stuff. However, it isn't entirely confirmed whether it was real or not, though it will likely never be found, even if it is real, because it's a goddamn virus. GTA 5 for the Wii U. There's very little known about this, though allegedly a prototype for GTA 5 was actually made for the Wii U and is believed to exist, with Reggie Fils-Aimé being asked if the game could appear on the Wii U, with him saying that Rockstar was pretty positive towards the system. And in 2015, a former staff member of Unseen64, a website that discusses uncancelled games, would get a tip from a reliable source saying that the game was briefly tested on Wii U. Now, whether this is true or not is completely up in the air, as I have no idea who the reliable source is. All we know for sure is that GTA 5 never came to the Wii U, or even the Switch, yet. Celebrity number 6 image. So somebody on Reddit made posts about how they owned curtains that had celebrities in distinct pop art like illustrations, with 8 celebrities being present. And although 7 of them were figured out, no one could figure out who number 6 was, being called celebrity number 6. While there are some candidates for who this celebrity is, nobody knows for sure. Let me know down in the comments who you think this could be. 4Kids F-Zero GP Legend dub. So, F-Zero GP Legend was an anime that ran from 2003 to 2004 and was based on the F-Zero games, even getting a game based on the anime for the GBA. After airing in Japan, it would be localized for the West by 4Kids, bringing character names getting changed and the cars in the non-racing scenes to be CGI, and started broadcasting in 2004 on Foxbox. However, after 15 episodes, the show seemingly got cancelled due to low ratings, never re-airing. Although these episodes have been archived online, there were supposed to be 36 more episodes, as the original Japanese run was 51 episodes. And according to David Wills, the English voice of Captain Falcon in this series, said that all the other episodes were dubbed. Though, considering it's 4Kids we're talking about, they're likely gone forever. Sailor Moon Ukrainian dub. Sailor Moon is one of the most well-known animes out there. I don't really think I need to introduce much. However, due to how popular the anime was, it would naturally receive dubs in many different languages. However, the Ukrainian version is the one we're talking about today. Airing in the early 2000s, this dub was actually done in Russian, However, only episodes 128 to 136 were ever found online, though this isn't the only dub that's been lost to time, as the Bulgarian and Finnish dubs have most of their episodes lost too. You'll notice this with some cartoons that some certain dubs, very little is found of them. Purple Yoshi tech demo. In the early 2000s, an image circulated online that appeared to be some sort of tech demo for the GBA, featuring Yoshi in some sort of game. Despite the quality of the image being pretty good, it's actually unknown whether or not this was a mock-up made by a fan, or if it was part of a lost GBA tech demo, as we have barely any other info other than where the image was posted, on the IGN boards. I'm not too sure. I think it could possibly be real, considering this was made in 2000, so I mean, it wouldn't have been impossible for a fan to make it, but I think it's possible it could have been part of a bigger tech demo, but I don't know, and we'll see if we ever find out. Southern TV broadcast intrusion real-time footage. In November of 1977, a hijacking of Southern TV occurred, in which someone through audio claimed to be an alien, saying things about how humanity would experience another age of Aquarius and other strange stuff for 6 minutes until the station returned to an episode of Looney Tunes. Not only is the person behind the hijack unknown, but certain details are pretty fuzzy, such as people believing the audio and video were hijacked, though some believe only the audio got interrupted. Thankfully, we do have the audio for the hijack, though it is unknown if any weird footage did appear during the hijack. Lost SpongeBob dubs. Similar to Sailor Moon, SpongeBob would get many dubs over time, with some of them having either some episodes found or none at all. But I'll just talk about the most interesting ones. The first one being the Kazakh dub, which aired the first 8 seasons, I'm pretty sure from 2010 to 2014, though was threatened to get banned due to being apparently a bad influence on kids. So the dub is completely lost at this rate. Similar to the Kannada dub, which is also completely gone. And then there's the Persian dub that was being made by Ragtime, which is now defunct, which dubbed at least the first 2 seasons, and even then, it's unknown if this actually happened or not. There's plenty of other lost dubs for SpongeBob. I'd recommend checking them out if it interests you. CR6. This was one of the earliest internet shows, being made in 1997, which was more of an interactive soap opera, using photos instead of FMV, and revolving around 6 characters. The series was not very successful and didn't last long due to production being not good, as Chris Kinstry, the guy who was making this whole thing, lost around $1 million and would eventually flee to Chile. CR6 would fall into obscurity until it was rediscovered, and very little has been found, and it's unlikely that we'll find much more about it. Dustin Diamond teaches chess. I'll keep this one pretty short. This is a 2001 video of Dustin Diamond showing the viewer how to play chess, which is 4 hours long, and that's really it. It was made on VHS and didn't seem to get sold much aside from some online stores. In 2022, the video was split into 2 parts and sold for $40 total. One person bought it and said it wasn't worth it, so yeah. 1898 FA Cup final footage. This is apparently the first FA Cup to be recorded, happening in April of 1898, showing Nottingham Forest defeat Derby County 3-1. This was recorded by filmmaker Bert Ackeries. Sorry if I butchered that, by the way. With the film apparently being 75 feet long. However, this, along with Ackeries' other recordings, were completely lost, with only photos of the event existing. Considering age, this film will likely never be found. The Tombstone Thunderbird photo. The Tombstone Thunderbird was apparently a cryptid that was reported in 1890 being a very big bird, almost like a pterodactyl, being found in Tombstone, Arizona, allegedly being killed by ranchers who would then take a photo of the corpse. However, not only is the existence of this bird not clear, but the photo as well has also not been proven to be true, despite many saying they've seen it, which could be a case of Mandela effect, as many photos that have shown this bird have been proven to be false. It's unlikely if this was ever a real thing. Same for the photo, which, yeah, the photo's also lost. Waluigi Toenail Game. This is apparently a Flash game that was based on Waluigi and was made to promote Mario Tennis for the Nintendo 64, and would entail you clipping his toenails and catching them in a jar to score points. It was first found in a Nintendo Power issue, specifically from September 2000, so this is real and it's lost, but yeah, I hope you love knowing this knowledge now. The Yucatan Tape. Apparently, Lauren Coleman, a cryptozoologist, at one point claimed to have seen a big bird or pterodactyl fly across Yucatan in 1977. Though, nothing really exists to prove this cryptid, and I guess apparently at some point there may have been some video or picture of it at some point, considering the tape part of the entry, but nothing has ever been found regarding this supposed big bird or pterodactyl. Taiwan 2001. This was a game made for free on PC in the 2000s and was known for being really not good, being made by the same guy who made Hong Kong 97, in which Taiwan 2001 is extremely similar with extremely basic gameplay as well as being offensive. Weirdly, the game did resurface, which, fantastic, of course this gets found of all things. Medieval footage. This is more of a theory that footage of medieval times does exist, despite cameras and video and photos not being a thing. There's a video on YouTube claiming to be real footage, however, all of the footage apparently comes from movies during the 1900s. Unless eventually we finally see what time travel can actually be like and we can actually use it, footage is never gonna happen. Alam Ara. This was a 1931 Indian movie and the first Indian movie to use sound, and was about a necklace that keeps a boy named Kamar alive. Despite being very successful, the last copy of the movie would be destroyed in a fire in 2003, rendering the movie completely lost, aside from some production stills, and quite a bit is known about the production of the movie itself. Ambiance. So, remember how in Tier 3 I talked about The Cure for Insomnia, which was an 87-hour long movie? You thought that was crazy? Well, Ambiance was a movie supposedly made in 2020 that was, no kidding, supposed to be 720 hours long, or 30 days long. However, this movie never got any screening, with only a couple trailers, one being 7 hours long, being on YouTube. Though, it is unknown whether this was actually a real thing or not, or if it was a complete and utter hoax. I mean, even if this was a real thing, it probably sucked real bad. It's probably for the best that it's not online. Persona 4 Chie Flash Game. In 2008, a Flash game was made to promote Persona 4, which involves Pibimon Chie in the hot springs, and Chie being one of the party members in the game. And there's even a sprite where you could actually see a nude sprite. Yeah, it's really weird, and you can find it online if you're really curious about it. I'm sorry for this info. American Crisis. This was an unlicensed NES game that was being made by a Taiwanese company, Computer and Entertainment, where you would go through either Iran or Iraq avoiding enemies. However, the game was cancelled once the publisher, American Video Entertainment, went bankrupt, with the game still being undumped. Though a Famicom prototype is believed to exist, it is unknown if we'll ever get to see this game. Laughlets. These were 20 to 30 second shorts that were made by Walt Disney from 1922 to 1923, and only 8 of these are even known to exist. However, these apparently failed really badly and are completely lost. We do at least have the names, but aside from that, we don't have anything else, or even how they would have looked. Calvin incident photos. So this refers to a picture of a UFO sighting from 1990 in Scotland by a couple hikers, apparently being one of the most possible sightings of aliens, and for a very long time the picture catching the UFO disappeared from the public eye, until it was eventually found in 2022. So It's nice to have that. Now, as for it being a real UFO, who the hell knows? I hope I said that right. There's really not much to this one. This was a short horror movie that was made in Russia in 1909, being a silent film, being based on off the book of the same name. Extremely little is known. Aside from a few cast members and a couple of production stills, that's literally all we have, and it'll likely never be found. This is also not to be confused with the 1967 movie with the same name, which is available online. All lost media exists on the internet. This is basically the theory that everything exists online, including lost media, as over time, people have unearthed more and more lost media, leading people to think that everything could be online regardless of how obscure it is. You just have to look in the right corners. I mean, it's not completely wrong. I mean, more and more lost media gets found every day, so I don't know, maybe with enough searching online, you may potentially find ambiance or some other stuff. Maybe you'll find that Waluigi toenail game, I don't know. Poon Tangy Tangy Tang. So, this is the final entry for this iceberg, and this is probably the weirdest one of them all. So, this is a fan fiction that isn't completely found, but someone on TV Tropes named Nick the Swing did recite what they remembered, and I'm just going to read the post at this point. And I think it speaks for itself pretty well. It goes like this. It was in the Hannah Montana section, and apparently involved the brother character well. It then involves aliens, the Illuminati, a space pirate who wants to marry aforementioned brother to take over all of the Earth's businesses, and then a planet-eating dinosaur is dug up by archaeologists and rocket scientists, which immediately starts eating the Earth. After some more insanity involving conjoined twins who finish each other's sentences, and a human-sized ant who turns into a young woman who wears gothing clothes, things start awkwardly resolving themselves. The brother marries the space pirate who sells Rico into slavery on Jabandi 9, and the planet-eating dinosaur learns love and leaves. The fanfic finishes with, "It's my life," the end. No hint of who said it, just quote marks around it, and then the end. And that was the Lost Media Iceberg. Holy dang, this took a long time to make. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully you learned something new. And this is in no way, shape, or form a definitive Lost Media Iceberg. I wanted to do this because, I thought it'd be fun. Again, I want to give a thanks to Jackson or Jason Buttholes for narrating some of the entries in this video. And of course, I want to give a big shout out to the Lost Media Wiki for constantly documenting lost media and even finding and preserving it. Their site is pretty cool. I'll leave a link in the description down below. Yeah, hopefully you guys didn't mind the gameplay changing, because I didn't want to just have a black screen for like the video portion. So I hope you don't mind like the video game gameplay. I'm not sure what my next iceberg will be. We'll just see what that is. It'll probably be a much smaller one than this. I don't really know what else to say in terms of like the iceberg itself, but I do have more content coming out soon. I know I haven't been doing much at all recently, but this is a bit of a big project. But now that this is over when I'm recording this, I am going to get much more content out for hopefully the rest of the summer. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Peace out and take care.